Welcome to the SBG. Thanks again for watching. Today I've got something kind of fun and kind of exciting that I want to go through, and that is 5 top tips for leaf sprung RC trucks. Oh gosh, listen, hey, if you are coming to this video from the full-size world and the video description was a bit goofy and you thought, hey man, I could really use some tips from my leaf sprung pickup, this video isn't really for you. It's more for the RC guys, so don't give me any negative feedback in the comments. Cool. Now, a lot of people out there are going to say right away, well, leaf spring trucks suck. They don't perform the same as a linked truck would. They're not nearly as capable. And yeah, you're right and you're wrong. Let me explain. I think there's a lot of little tips and tricks you can use to make a leaf sprung truck way more capable than they are out of the box. I'm not going to say a million times better or, you know, even on par, but there are advantages to using leaf springs over a traditional linked setup. And I'm not really going to get into many of the reasons why I think that you should do it one way or the other. But I mean, if you're a class 1 kind of guy, leaf springs tend to be the kind of approach, right? You want it to be scale, you want it to be realistic, you want it to look good on the trails when you're taking photos and videos and stuff, and leaf spring trucks definitely have a different look and a different feel and different dynamics on the trail than a linked truck does. So without further ado, we're going to try to do this really super quick because most of my videos seem to be 15 minutes long and nobody likes that. So let's focus on getting through these 5 top tips as quickly as possible. Tip 1 is pretty simple. It's taking the internal springs out of the shocks on all 4 corners. And you're like, well, what's the point of having a shock then? Well, yeah, there isn't really a good one. There's no point really other than to keep everything kind of a little more stable. What we're doing here is we're taking the springs out. What that does is it instantly makes it so the leaves are doing the majority of the work. If you have a really, you know, like a stiff or even a spring of any kind inside those internal shocks, it's really kind of making it extra springy, extra difficult to articulate and move through the whole range. So top tip number 1, get rid of those internal shock springs. Number 2, you want to remove the smallest helper leaf in all 4 corners again. What you're doing there is you're taking some of the load away. So now instead of having to flex through 3 springs or 3 leaves, it's only flexing through 2. Obviously that makes a lot of sense, and it's probably not a super unknown top tip, but it's a top tip nonetheless. Top tip number 3. This involves the rear springs only. And we're talking specifically about RC 4-wheel drive TF2s, for example, and what we're looking at here is the Marlin Crawler Edition TF2 RTR. This doesn't just apply to that specific truck, it applies to the regular TF2, the TF2 long wheelbase, the TF2 short wheelbase, anything from the TF2 line that has leaf springs. Their rear spring leaf perch, where the leaf springs mount to the chassis, it's always pushed a little too inward. And what happens there is that once you get to full articulation, the leaf tends to fold over itself. And when it does that, it kind of locks the leaf into place. And I'm going to try to duplicate that here so you can see it. It's super annoying, and it also isn't accurate or scale, and it really can bind you up in a lot of situations. So Bauhaus RC makes a part available on Shapeways, and I'll put the link below, that moves that perch just a few millimeters back. So what that's essentially doing is preventing that from happening. Great top tip, definitely something I recommend. Number 4 is the Chino mod. Now this was created by Chino 63 on RC Crawler, and what you're doing here is to increase articulation and to increase movement in those springs is you grind away at almost like a 45-degree angle. You grind away a lot of the actual material where the leaf spring meets that hanger. And what you're doing there is a traditional leaf spring is going to be like this, but he's doing this. So what that means is that the actual leaf can kind of pivot and move around a bit on the hanger, which gives you a lot more articulation. It's a super helpful, super easy mod to do. I'm showing you right now with my handheld cordless Dremel tool and the sanding wheel, just grinding away some of that metal material. Wear a mask, don't breathe it in, don't do stupid things, put safety goggles on, but it's a super easy mod to do. I do it on all four corners, and it's something that I highly recommend, and I thank Chino 63 for coming up with that. I'm sure the full-size guys have been doing it for years. It may even actually be how leaves come, I don't know. But this is a big helper, and definitely probably one of the most important top tips I can give you. Top tip number 5, break in those leaves. Don't go to a comp or don't go to the trail without first doing my favorite thing, which is pressing down on the shocks. Get them nice and worked in. You want them to be loose. You want them to be a little bit less firm than when they came out of the box. And the only way to do that before you actually drive it is to do my favorite thing, which I'm doing right now. It's honestly the best. So that's it. I think we may have actually been able to get this video under 5 minutes. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.